Okay, take four. This is the fourth time I'm trying to record this. This is my commentary for Dexter Original Sin, episode one. I love how this episode actually starts off um, with, showing what happened after Dexter New Blood. It really does help create a connection between the audience and the main character, Dexter. You know, by showing, by showing the, Dexter in the back of the police car, and showing, the images of, what happened, how he got shot and everything. That really does take us as the audience back to New Blood and what happened at the end. And these images and the scenes taking us back puts us gives us a connection with the main character, because Dexter, in his mind, in his experience right now, is going back to how this began and things like that. So it's I like how I love that directorial choice to help the audience and the character kind of come together in a sense in this experience. I love how Dexter says, "Oh, heartbeat, I'll take it," which is more of an inside joke of him being a serial killer. And then it plays the goofy music afterward, like he's up to more shenanigans. And I love another director choice was it says emergency, shows you where he's at, and then it says emerge, and then it shows Dexter being born. A lot of times in TV shows, you will have a first episode, and the first episode will usually be pilot, but also a lot of first episodes secretly, I guess secretly, actually have a name. Sometimes they'll just be called pilot, but a lot of times the first episodes of TV shows will have a name. So I think, in my opinion, I think that the name of this episode was originally Emerge, but they changed it to just Pilot, to just keep it simple. I do have to say, I love the hallways. I love how they did the hallway scenes and connecting the death of Dexter to the birth of Dexter. Now we have the intro. I might talk about the intro. Oh, I love how they have a little rewind scene where it says Dexter Original Sin and has those two arrows going back. Um, I don't know if they still do that now, but like back in the day, we would have remotes or whatever, and they would have, and even cassette players, they would have the symbol of two arrows going left, which symbolized going backwards or rewinding, I believe, or going back a chapter or something. Yeah, created by Scott Phillips, or not Scott Phillips, Clyde Phillips. Yeah, I love the. This is an interesting intro. It's interesting what they did, but yeah, I've been trying to record this for a minute. I think it's a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's Wednesday, so in 2 more days, I believe episode 7 or 8 is going to be released on Paramount Plus. So I tried to do eat one episode of Dexter a month and keep up, do a commentary for every new episode, and I just haven't been able to. I just haven't been able to. So this is the first opportunity I have to finally record the first episode of Original Sin. Yeah, unfortunately the wind's blowing, so I don't know if this microphone picked that up. All right, so now Dexter is what was funny about this, which I guess I can talk more about the scene. I'll talk about that later. But It is sort of a full circle for me recording this, especially today, actually. Yeah, here's Dexter doing his dissections. This is unfortunate. I'm using a different media program. I think this is called Media Player. So it's a little rough because I don't know how to use the subtitles to actually read what they're saying. I'm gonna have to go back to my media player, my VLC. But yeah, I love the whole mirror effect of the doctor or the dude is like, "Oh, is there a problem?" And Dexter's like, "Yeah, no blood." Um, I remember that he said that in the first episode of the original Dexter when he saw the body in the pool. It was like, "Oh, no blood." It's interesting how in the first episode of Dexter he was like shocked that there was no blood. It's crazy, wow. And then now he's looking at a body and there's no blood, and he's like, it's not exciting." it's it's funny how he has two different reactions to like the same thing. Or I think I'm saying that right. I think I don't know. Forgive me. Sorry for clearing my throat a lot. I actually just got off a sickness. Just came out of nowhere. But I think it was I think it was the flu. And yeah, my throat's still bothering me a little bit. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Um, I remember there was a weird correlation with, oh, there's Batista, young Batista. Yeah, they did a good job. They did a good job with how he looks. And yeah, the captain here. I was wondering where Matthews was, where Tom Matthews was, but this show is not a copy and paste. And I don't know Clyde Phillips personally, unfortunately. I tried to get a hold of him, but well, okay, no, I tried to figure out how to like find Clyde Phillips because, after New Blood, I had an idea and I wanted to pitch it to him and couldn't, didn't know how, but I was like, I wonder. Anyway, so I don't know Clyde Phillips much, but it feels like it would seem like with Tom Matthews being kind of absent, to me what it feels like is you don't want the show to be a copy and paste of the original. You want to add some Easter eggs. Like right now, Dexter eating his steak, being in the zone and it really being a reflection of the original opening theme song. But with Tom Matthews not really being there, it does give Original Sin a feeling of originality. Like, oh, that character, that character, that character, that character. You don't want to do it too much. You want to just give the audience the right amount of taste of, hey, that character and that character and all the characters that are supposed to be it. But sometimes you got to keep it balanced. So with Tom Matthews not really being in the picture, I actually think that was the better choice. But yeah, I think that was the better. This first episode, the actor who played Dexter, there was a few people who were like, I'm not too convinced with this actor that plays Dexter. I was like, I was with my buddies and I was like, give him a chance, let him cook, just let him cook a little bit. Yeah. I thought it was an interesting. I love the color schemes of the university. You see these two frames of Miami and the university, and then you see the colors go from like colorful and bright, and it goes right to just dark and gray when it shows Dexter. And I love that because a lot of times in those old commercials, when they had those bright colors of, oh, it's the college university, and had all the bright colors. So I thought that was interesting. And then when it goes into reality of Dexter, then it shows the greatness, and it's like, yeah, I love the color, the way that the colors told that story of who Dexter is, and also where he's at, and his, I guess, relation or feeling with it. I don't know. So this scene, Dexter is meeting with Masuka, and I love to get Masuka. This character, this seems like Masuka. Like, even though Masuka was cool in the original Dexter, there were those hints that you could tell Masuka was a bit of a butt back in the day. So now when he's like a butt in these episodes, in Original Sin, it's very believable. It's like, yeah, that's Masuka. He's the same guy. But anyway, I was saying, I remember I was watching this episode, and I saw the way that the characters were dressed in the background in the college, and I remember watching. I was like, why are these characters dressed like that? Like, why are they dressed? And I was like, oh, it took place in the '90s. That's right. This so the captain, the way he's speaking right now, I felt was very interesting choice also, for the simple fact that back in the day, it was a couple decades ago, just the dialogue that was spoken by certain adults of certain authorities, things like that, there was just a certain slang or linguistic or whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, that adults spoke in back in the day. Certain use of words and the vulgarness of what that means. Sorry, the vulgarness of how it talked back then seems to be strongly reflected in that scene. So I really did enjoy that, and I really did enjoy that scene by how vulgar his dialogue was, and just what it spiritually meant, for that era. Some old paintings and SWAT team, and add a little bit of humor because Dexter wasn't as dark, and in these episodes as he was in the previous ones. The thing about, which I think was maybe, well, not really hard, but oh, there's Ted Bundy. So usually, yeah, I'm not even gonna go into all that right now. But anyway, yeah, Dexter's little book of serial killers, the Zodiac. um, I like how Dexter has his little Charlie Brown shirt. And Deb's actress is great. Yeah, so I did want to say that scene when the guy was on the picture and then his face blended and then he's in the shower. I thought that was an amazing director choice also to make. Yeah, this actress who played Deb did a great job. But yeah, one thing one thing about this show, the reason why this recording this episode today is like a full circle to me, simply because It's something weird about when she says, "Where's the K?" and he says, "The K, we could do better." It's something about when he says that we could do better. It's something strange about the way he delivered that line. Not necessarily bad, but anyway. Um, down with OPP. Anyway, so also what I wanted to say about the house where they arrested the dude. His address was what 22114, and if you do add those numbers together, they add up to 8, which was how many seasons there were of Dexter. Not saying that's an Easter egg or anything. I'm just saying, just thought I'd point it out. I was saying, yeah. So this is full circle because a while back, maybe a year ago, maybe even longer, I actually got I guess, an invitation, maybe, or there was an opportunity. I had an opportunity to audition for an extra on this show. And it was before the show was actually announced to the public. And I was like, what? And I was doing a bunch of research. Anyway, so ooh, this fight scene is rough. Anyway, so I was like, my first thought was, and I'm gonna probably bring this up in future episodes for obvious reasons. Oh, there it is. There's gonna have poke him up. Is Dexter gonna poke him up? And there's Deb to the rescue. So I don't. I want to. I want to give these recordings, these commentaries as a fan, as a true fan watching the show. But so I don't want to say too much. You know, I just want to do this as a fan and be normal, just simple. So I do like the symbolism or the idea of Dexter about to lose it, and then Deborah saves him. And if you know, and it's like Deborah was always representation of Dexter's humanity. So actually seeing that Dexter's humanity stops him from fully indulging into such a dark path. Seeing Deborah save him from it was like figurative, physically and like figuratively. But yeah, I did like that and enjoyed that Clyde Phillips did that. And so yeah, sequence of this sequence of sorry, it's like hard to hear. I'm trying to talk and listen at the same time. But the sequence after Deb has just that the party scene just ended. Sorry, the scene just ended and the party scene, and yeah, they just got back and Harry was like, "Oh, where were you all night?" Can't sleep without my kids. Yeah, back in the day when traumatizing stuff happened like that, we were we had to suck it up. Like a lot of the stuff that's horrifying now, especially for young people, it's back in the day when stuff like that happened to us, we had to chop it up like, oh, okay, something almost happened. It didn't, time to move on. And that's just how it was back then. But for whatever reason, it's not like that anymore. I do want to say that in this scene, it shows Harry indulging in cigarettes and indulging in smoking and getting crazy over the game and showing a piece of his neglectful behavior towards the things going on around him. The way that Christian Slater's character Harry jumps in the pool, his body movements, the way that the camera worked around him, the way he grabs the kid, the way the camera is moving in the water, things like that. These are small details that a lot of horror directors or thriller directors pay attention to. And I've noticed watching regular movies versus watching movies where you have a horror director, there are very small details from just movements, body movements, camera angles that, only can be captured by certain directors that do horror. And that whole scene really did stick out to me from like a director point of view and just from the camera point of view, and it really does show that the writers and just the choreography, just everything, how it was all planned out in this scene, this episode. It was very well thought out, detail by detail. When this episode was written, when it was filmed, every detail was important and mattered. This scene right here in the swamp, in or wherever they're at, hunting. This was, I believe, the audition scene for the actors that were auditioning to play Dexter. This was the audition scene that they had to do. I believe it was this scene and something else. But there was another actor who, anyways. So yeah, so this was one of the audition scenes. I wasn't there, so I can't really like 100% say it, but yeah. So when they were doing this scene, Patrick Dempsey and Christian Slater, according to Christian Slater, they were trying to figure out, oh, when he falls, how does he, how is he going to get picked up? Do you do this? Do you do that? And I believe in the interview, Christian Slater said that it seemed unrealistic how Dexter would have picked up Harry in this scene. So they did a lot of rehearsals and tried to, and as the actors tried to figure out how to find a way for Dexter to lift up Harry that seemed very organic and real and not planned. Like Dexter had all this experience as a paramedic, or would lift like this, and so I did like that detail that Christian Slater did say about this. And yeah, and what I was going to say earlier, and I kept cutting myself off and talking over myself, is right here when you see Patrick Dempsey acting in this scene, you can tell there's a certain intensity with his acting in this scene. And I've seen it anyways. So like the intensity of his acting in this scene really does say some stories that he's been here for a minute. But it also, as an actor, but it mainly tells us, to me, it tells mainly tells a story to me that um yeah, Patrick Dempsey's head, he hurt his back a little bit. I wonder, wait, that I never noticed the truck that they're driving. I wonder if that truck was the same truck that Dexter had in New Blood. I'm gonna have to look into that now. Normally, I would have that information before I do a commentary, but I didn't know I was gonna have this. I have no excuse. I could have done my research, all my research, but I didn't. But normally, I would know that information. And then here's Dexter eating. Dexter's sin was gluttony. All the main characters have their sin. His was gluttony. Deadly sins. Yeah. So when his acting in that scene was one, which was, he's been there a while, but the intensity um, also shows where Dexter's character was at that time. What I mean about that is after season one, what happens with Brian and everything. After that happens, Dexter basically he basically has another. trauma that he goes through as an adult. And in season two, he's beginning to become human through this idea of grief. And then after that, he starts to bond with the people around him and he starts understanding the idea of being human. And then the rest of the seasons kind of evolve from there. So, how Dexter was the peak of Dexter, of who he was as a character, we really only got to see that in the first season of Dexter. So I believe for the actor right here who plays Patrick Dempsey, he really had to capture a sense of Dexter's character that was only around for the first season, and which I think was is a lot easier for him because he was like, okay, so all the developments, all the evolution that Dexter had to go through throughout the entire show, the actor doesn't necessarily need to go to all those places. He doesn't need to take on all that burden. Doesn't have to take on the Harrison, the Dokes, the Rita, Miguel, all of that. He doesn't have to worry about all that. So here it's like taking the slither of season one Dexter and bringing that into a new light. So so having sorry, my dog almost messed up my entire commentary. I almost had to restart the whole thing. Um, yeah, so when he was acting in that scene, it really does show a sense of detachment, but it also shows a sense of enthusiasm and desperation and capturing all of those emotions, as the actor. Sorry, I had to let the dog out. Anyway, so moving on from that, with all these distractions, and I see everyone's getting home now, so fortunately I can't record much more after this. Anyway, so I love Deborah's expressions as she's going through the refrigerator. She's just like I just loved the expression. Mm. The very interesting thing I like about the dynamic between Dexter and Deborah, what I really like is the fact that Deborah is just all over the place and she's like ram ram ram, and she's always yelling and she's always so intense and this and that and just all this stuff. And Dexter is just kind of like calm and shut down. And the fact that they get along so well, that they're just so good together, one of the reasons is that Dexter doesn't have much within himself to retaliate against who Deborah is. He's not fighting with her. He's not like, oh, you're so annoying, you're this or that. Because it's like Dexter doesn't really have much of that inside of him to where, he cares. So it's like when Deborah comes with at him with all this intense energy, Dexter doesn't have that many filters to be like, you know what? I can't handle this. I can't handle this. I can't deal with this and judge her about this. And I need to protect myself emotionally from Deb because she yells at me because of this. And like I think that's a very interesting dynamic is you have people who are at peace or who are unmovable. They're like rocks. So when things kind of hit them, when the winds of life hit them, they're just kind of like, oh, I'm cool. I'm here. So it's just interesting to see that because you can have someone who is dark or so like psychopath, like someone who's dark like Dexter. But then you can also have someone who's light like a monk. And you'll notice that when things come their way, there could be a similar response to someone who is encased in darkness versus someone who is encased in light and peace. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing to bring up. Dexter's meeting with the nurse now, and they show the picture of the black cat, and I'm glad that they showed that picture because that really shows that the directors and the people behind the scenes did not forget that in the original show of Dexter there was a cat in the house where Dexter got his first victim, and the cat wasn't, I believe, wasn't present in Original Sin when they filmed, but they didn't want to leave it as a plot hole. They wanted to show the picture of the cat to say, "Hey, we know that there's a cat here, but we're choosing not to have it in the scene." So I do appreciate that choice also, and that attention to detail, and how fans would pick that apart. Yeah, I worked at a school, and just like looking at this classroom and how it looks, and I missed it, but I wonder if there was that drinking fountain. So I actually don't know if they still have those. I don't think so. But in the old schools, at least the ones that I went to, where they had the whole wash your hands station, they actually had a little water fountain connected to where you could drink water throughout the class, which my teacher is always like, no, sit down. So yeah, here's an old computer back in the day. Here's the doctor just talking. Back in the day, people were very oblivious through the existence. They were just kind of like, blah, 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 blah. This is what life is. Move on. Blah, blah, blah. So, of course, his doctor isn't going to be suspicious about what Dexter's doing, why he's asking these questions, things like that. He's just on autopilot, on a robotic sort of personality. You know, here's the nurse. This nurse did a great job with giving the aura and the dark presence that the original actress did in the original season 1 of Dexter. When it showed the flashbacks of Dexter getting his first victim, that nurse had such a cold, just look in her eye that just was always like, whoa, this lady is just, she's, I wouldn't doubt if the actor was an actual serial killer. So when I see this new actress, I assume she's a new actress, and Original Sin playing the same nurse, I'm like, this nurse has that look in her eyes. She has that same feel to her, that same look. That's a good detail I paid attention to. She also had a dark passenger. I think it was interesting hiring Christian Slater to be Harry in the show. The reason why I say that is because there was another show, one of those hidden gem shows that just kind of there then disappear. But there was another show, uh, and I don't want to spoil anything about it, but in that show, he does that smile a bit too much for me. But hey, I was new at this. But oh, I love the color scheme of the blue and the red. It really does remind me of the pilot episode of the first episode of Dexter. I remember, I think Clyde Phillips said something about the color schemes, but I don't remember exactly what he said about why it was blue and red. But yeah, there's Dexter getting suited up and his little knife, his scream knife, his little '90s scream knife. Yeah, so Christian Slater played in this other show. He he was he played a similar role to how Harry did in Dexter. He played a similar role. So I thought that was interesting seeing him play Harry alive. You know, when he played a version or like a dynamic of Harry in a different show. So I thought that was interesting seeing, Christian Slater being cast as his character. So here we're at the high school, and here's Deb in her uniform with the other volleyball team. Apparently these scenes, I don't know if it's all the scenes, most of them, some of them, but the high school was actually the high school that Clyde Phillips went to. He went to his actual high school, and I guess he went back and they were like, "Hey, you want to?" He was like, "Let me film here." I'm like, "Okay." So this high school that Deb goes to was the actual high school that Clyde Phillips went to, according to the actress Molly Brown, who plays Deb. Deb, yeah. Make sure I'm still recording. There's nothing more annoying than saying your recording stopped after like 12 minutes. So, one thing I do wish I knew about this scene, the way she's laid out naked on the bed and the way that the plastic wrapping is, at some point throughout the show, the plastic wrapping. Screw it, and the plastic wrapping was actually hurting some of the old actors and actresses. So where I think it was in middle of season two, they had to change the wrapping material for the actors and make it make it more comfortable for the actors who were the victims of the table. So I'm curious to know if this wrapping is actually the old wrapping that made the actors uncomfortable, or if it was the newer wrapping. And that's a detail that I really wish that I knew, before going into this commentary. Morgan 13. And I love this dynamic. Something that Molly Park was, the Masuka of New Blood. She had the podcast, but something her actress said was something that I agreed with, that I liked, that we liked, was I liked that she said she liked too. Sorry, was that you see Deb at this volleyball game, and then you see Dexter killing his first victim, and it's like everything that Deborah is feeling right now throughout her volleyball game is everything that Dexter is actually feeling inside. So it's like an interesting dynamic of putting those emotions together, and again giving some kind of sick, twisted, you know, connecting feeling of what Dexter's going through right now. And also with them winning the championship, it's like, oh, we get a trophy. But then now Dexter gets his trophies, so and then now we see the mosquito hit his arm and he smacks the mosquito, really showing that he's in his element right now. At least he feels that he is. Now we got the quackadillies. Um, some people thought that they were smart by doing this, by putting bodies out there in alligator alleys or whatever. And alligators would, eat them. But apparently, it happens a lot of the times, and it showed this in one of the episodes, that they won't always digest, or sometimes you have the hunters and crocodiles would sometimes throw up body parts in random places, random people's yards. Some body parts won't digest properly, and then when the hunters kill them, they find the body parts, and it's like it's not as simple as just giving a body, just feeding it to a crocodile or an alligator. Sorry, it's more. It's doesn't work. But of course, I think this show kind of shows why. But I really want to look up that was the same truck. And some this might be the first commentary that a lot of people actually hear that I make. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm doing a good job keeping the audience. Yeah. So, in case anyone didn't know, if I'm pausing and stopping and talking, and it's because I'm actually watching when I do my commentaries. I watch the movies. I watch my movies. I watch my episodes, and I'm giving a commentary as I'm watching and listening. So yeah, Dexter meets with Batista and Masuka. And I was gonna say this, which weird. Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'm tiny but mighty. Wait, I know. Oh, I think she says that in the next episode. Anyway, sorry, I was trying to see. Yep, I guess it's Sarah Michelle Gellar says that in the next episode. D money. You're showing off for D money. $4 an hour. That was good back then. I believe the average wage back then was like three something, which I saw in a video today. Someone was responding because some celebrities on a talk show were like, "Oh, Gen Z, they're so lazy," and they talk about how hard it is in life. It's not that hard. When we were young, we were this age. We went out there, we worked, and we got our own apartment. We got our own blah blah blah. And so the dude went back and was like, "Okay, here's what the minimum wage was back then compared to now. This is what the housing market was compared to now. What the schooling was back then to now. Prices. He was comparing them, and so it's Dexter eating the muffin, and yeah, old trash cans. Just put the trash can, the metal trash cans out on the curb, and the guys would jump out and grab the trash cans and throw them in. Another interesting director choice, which is Dexter looks at his watch and he runs away from the camera as it's pointing at the sky, and then you see the hats come down. Very interesting transition. I love the transition shots in this episode. But yeah, I was actually engaged to a woman who was a Sagittarius, just like Deb. So it's a little painful sometimes looking at Deb, watching Deb and seeing my old fiance, before things happened and didn't work out. But anyway, it's interesting seeing Sarah Michelle Gellar, because I was gonna say this when she was first introduced in the episode, or like 20 minutes ago. But there was a TV show, I believe it was called Buffy. I believe it was called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there was a relationship that Julie Benz, that's her name. Julie Benz and Sarah Michelle Gellar were both on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there was interesting dynamic, interesting chemistry between those two actresses. And then Julie Benz got hired for Rita and Dexter, and then And then Sarah Michelle Gellar gets hired in Dexter. So it was interesting seeing, the actresses that were close, and how this show kind of kept them connected through art form. Now here's our boy Harry giving Dexter a lecture. You can't do it. Well, what you do with the body? Okay, sorry. It's hard to listen and talk at the same time. I guess I can bring this story up now. But what I was saying earlier was that I had an invitation to possibly audition for uh, a extra on the show. And what happened was my thoughts were, I don't think I could be a black person in the 90s in Miami. I doubt that they would have too many use for black people at that time, and I don't know why, but I didn't pursue it. And when I watched this show, I saw how many black people were in the background and used, and I was like, man, I could have done that. I could have been one of those high school kids in the back. But it's always been my dream to work in Dexter. I really want to work on my favorite TV shows that I grew up with. I want to be a part of them somehow. Just I want to be a part of here Saw. I'm sorry, Dexter. Um, the Saw franchise. I want to work on a movie, and Heroes. That's with Tim Kring. I just want to work on these three shows, well, and more. But and here's Angel. Here's the police station. This police station was a replica. It was not the original. I believe the original set that had this police station was torn down. So what we see now is remodeled. The woman that just hugged Harry, that was Camilla. She was in Records, and she was the character that Dexter, that was dying of cancer in the third season of Dexter, and she was asking for the perfect key lime pie. Dexter kept bringing her pies. That was her character. Now here's the actor with his haircut. They're doing the Masuka laugh. Hmm. Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's a perfect audition. She's a perfect addition to the Dexter family. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just looking at the. That'd be a good idea. Take it for a spin. He did the old Dexter spin in the chair. From what I understand, before when they were filming this, they brought Michael C. Hall in to see the set. I think Clyde Phillips called him in, or Scott Reynolds, or Scott, one of them. Oh, and credits. And so they called him in, and so Dexter walks in there, and he's like, "Oh, this is the replica." They're like, "Yeah, well, why don't you see it?" And Dexter sat down in the chair, and Veronica Mendoza, huh? And he spins around in the chair, and Dexter's like, "Wow, it's like being." Anyway, I really hope you guys like this commentary. I do apologize for, if I don't, I guess I'm fine, but I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. I'm gonna do the rest of the episodes when I get the chance. Have a good night, and thank you.